Terps headed off to Penn State, undefeated Terps. I got to make sure I point that out because the Ravens are no longer undefeated, and the Redskins will be coming up at 1 o'clock on Sunday to take them on. Meanwhile, baseball chugging along in the postseason. The Red Sox, who we saw plenty of, now head to the land of Cleve after a little bit of a fizzle at the end from maybe going from a 1 seed to a 3 seed, but the Red Sox do it as well on the road as anyone, and so does this guy. He'll be on the road with them this weekend. Tim Neverett, the radio play-by-play broadcaster for the Red Sox, joining us now from Rhode Island. What's going on, Tim? Postseason here, just like we drew it up, right?
Well, not exactly, but I think that, the fact of the matter is that you get there, and that's the main thing. And for the Red Sox, from their standpoint, the fact that they didn't have to go through a wild card round. When I was with the Pittsburgh Pirates, we did that 3 years in a row, and it's difficult when you lose. It's great when you win, but it's tough when you lose because it's sudden death. But going into a division series, that's what you want. You got a short series now with Cleveland. You start on the road. The thing about the Red Sox, though, is that they've been a very good road team, and they played on the road more than anybody in baseball through the second half of the season, and that's really when they started to gel and when they started to take off. They did lose 5 of the last 6 games. I think, a lot of the hoopla around David Ortiz really wore him out. And I think that, some of the guys just needed a little bit of a break, which is necessary from time to time during the season. So they'll be able to go into the series fresh. They've got the night game Thursday night. They'll play an afternoon game at 4:30 Friday. And so those will be games 1 and 2 in Cleveland, and then they'll get a day off and then play Sunday in Fenway. So it'll be interesting. And I think, you look at what Rick Porcello's done this year. He should be the Cy Young winner. He'll start game 1. Trevor Bauer wouldn't have been Terry Francona's first choice, but with Carrasco and Salazar out and Kluber, who'll be pitching injured in game 2 Friday, they're going to have to go with what they've got and see where the chips fall.
This is a nice spot for the Red Sox. I mean, I know a week and a half ago, I was talking to a lot of people in Boston. Obviously, the Orioles were very engaged there and then got swept, after pitching well up there in the third game. But it's been nip and tuck the whole way, and the Red Sox certainly looked to be the best team toward the end. I thought they would be the 1 seed. I thought they were surging in that direction. That's kind of why I worried for the Blue Jays over the weekend a little bit. It certainly didn't work out that way, but if you had a draw to say, well, we're going to play the Orioles or the Blue Jays or play the Indians, I tell you what, picking the Indians right now as sort of a hobbled link in this mess, probably not a bad spot for the Red Sox, and they do play well on the road. Now, if that were to come back to Cleveland for Game 5 in the end, and I guess at that point it would be Price on the hill for Game 5, guessing that way, if it goes in that direction, then you would say, well, it wasn't such a good idea. But if the Red Sox can get it done in 4 somehow, this is a really good spot for them.
Yeah, I think so. And, depending on how many games the series goes, if they can win it at Fenway in less than 5 games, that would be, of course, very ideal because then you'd have extra days off as you're heading into the ALCS. And during the course of the regular season, you have game after game after game, day after day after day, and rarely do you get a day off. Even for, some of the pitchers who aren't pitching, a day off doesn't mean that. But guys, if your bullpen session falls on a day off, you're going in. So, it's just one of those things where the days off do help. Sometimes teams can get out of a rhythm. Sometimes it helps them. So it definitely helps the starting pitchers for sure because you can get, if you had to, I think the Indians are planning on doing this. They're planning on having Bauer and Kluber perhaps go on 4 days rest and get 2 starts in a 5-game series because of the television schedule and the days off in between for travel. They can do that. The Red Sox, however, said they want to go with a 4-man rotation on 5 days rest and, see how that works out. But I do think it's a good spot for the Red Sox to be in. Having the home field against Texas, let's say Texas advances and let's say the Red Sox advance. Red Sox haven't had great success in Texas, but that's something they'll worry about when the time comes. And in the meantime, it's all about the Cleveland Indians.
Who goes Game 3 and Game 4 at this point in your mind, Tim?
Well, they haven't announced who it's going to be. It's either going to be Clay Buchholz in Game 3 and Eduardo Rodriguez in Game 4. They might flip the order. I think, I visited with John Farrell about that earlier in the week. he said that he wanted to get the 1 and 2 starters out there and then see what happens. He doesn't want to commit too far in advance simply because of the fact that, it's baseball and anything can happen. But if I had to guess, I would think Buchholz in Game 3, I think he's earned it. I think Eduardo Rodriguez has had some wonderful innings, but then he's had 1 or 2 that have just been disastrous, and that cost him in his last start. And it seems like it's cost him in the games that he's lost, that he's just had the one bad inning. But other than that, he can be dominant. But Buchholz has been more consistent down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, some of these teams, I'm not as worried about postseason jitters and night frights. Cleveland be one of those teams I would be worried about, and maybe even to some degree Texas. But for the Red Sox, a lot of veteran stuff going on here, but more of the resting part of this. Usually the teams that are trending are the ones that start to play better at the end. It was kind of a choppy last week as they sort of took the week off, but I don't think they'll have any problem getting revved back up again. But what do you like about the way they're playing right now? What would portend a good weekend for them in Cleveland?
Well, I like the fact that, Mookie Betts continues to hit, whether he's hitting third or fourth in the order. I like the fact that he has just been so consistent and really worthy of an MVP candidacy, and hopefully we'll see him win that award. But, I like what he has been able to do. The bottom part of the order, Jackie Bradley Jr. has been pretty good. Andrew Benintendi, I think, is going to get a lot of time this series because of the fact that the Red Sox are going to face all right-handers against Cleveland, and whether he hits in the 2 spot or whether he hits in the 9 spot or 8 spot remains to be seen. I doubt we'll see him number 2 right away, even though they have made some adjustments recently, moving Xander Bogaerts down to the 6th spot in the order, where he's been in the 2nd spot all year, and having Brock Holt, who's been playing third base, a left-handed batter, bat in the 2nd spot. So, all these things about the batting order matter, but I do like the way that the middle part of the order has been hitting. And, of course, Hanley Ramirez has been outstanding this last month. He's been unbelievable. And, hit a game-tying home run on the last day of the season, Sunday. Between September and October, that's 11 home runs. So that's a darn good month.
Tim Neverett, the radio play-by-play broadcaster for the Boston Red Sox, joining us here. You can follow his journey at Tim Neverett. That's Neverett, out on Twitter as well, as the Red Sox head to Cleveland here this weekend for games 1 and 2. Bullpens become so important, Tim. I mean, for the Orioles to get ousted 2 years ago by Kansas City, it was that shutdown, 7, 8, 9. I know the Red Sox worked all year to try to get that part of it together. Obviously Cleveland, brought in Miller as well, and other relief pitchers, Aroldis Chapman, these other guys are going to play a role here. For the Red Sox, a lot of it was about Koji coming back, right? And really about getting Kimbrel right. And I watched a little bit of the action over the weekend. Kimbrel's had some shakes here this season. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's been extremely dominant sometimes, and then he has, had some tough outings. I know in New York against the Yankees, really, really struggled and had to be lifted from a ball game, which he came in, they were leading 3-0 and ended up losing 5-3 when Joe Kelly gave up the walk-off grand slam to Mark Teixeira, and that was the same night they clinched the division. So here they are. They just got walked off with a grand slam, and they go in the clubhouse, and they're standing around, and there's plastic all over the lockers and champagne waiting for them, and they didn't know what to do. So they ended up having a celebration anyway. But at the same time, the last time out for Kimbrel, he suffered the loss. He had a couple of walks, and it might be a mechanical thing with him. But I think they've got to keep an eye on him. If this mechanical thing crops up in the playoffs, you don't have time to waste. So my guess is that Koji Uehara would take over. Koji's been very, very good since coming off the DL, as Craig was when he came off the disabled list. He was lights out, but something's crept into his mechanical part of the game, and they're trying to get that squared away. Brad Ziegler had a tough outing the other day against Toronto and ended up suffering the loss. So that was a bad situation for him. But most times he's really good. He gets the ground ball when he needs it, gets the strikeout when he needs it. So I think 7, 8, 9 is pretty good when they all have it going together at the same time.
Well, we say, good pitching beats good hitting this time of year. We're going to find out because this is really good hitting, right? And I don't know that this lineup can take time off. And, I don't know if they're going to lose Game 7 to 5 because the pitching is going to go haywire. But certainly in Games 1 and 2, this is why you acquire these guys. This is why you pay them the big bucks. This is how you kind of get ready. And, they spent a lot of money on Porcello 2 years ago, a lot of money this year on David Price. This is the put up or shut up time. I expect the Red Sox to win and win easily this series. I do.
Well, I'm glad you do because it's not easy. I mean, anything in the big leagues, it's so much easier to lose a game than to win a game in the big leagues. It really is. But, Price has had some good innings this year. Price, led the American League in innings pitched. He was very durable. He made 35 starts. And you don't see that a lot out of pitchers these days. Porcello is unbelievably consistent the whole year. Again, I think he's worthy of the Cy Young Award with what he's done. So, those two guys are going to be the key, and then whoever picks up the slack in Game 3, whatever, whether it's Buchholz or Rodriguez. And, again, now you played 1 month with a large roster. Now you got to trim it back down to 25, and that's another thing that Red Sox won't be announcing who they'll be, the 25 guys here until, I don't know, the day before the game, I guess, is when you have to do it. But it looks to me like they're going to go with a defensive roster at catcher. And my guess is that Sandy Leon will be the guy. Of course, he'll be the number one catcher. But I think they're going to have Christian Vasquez instead of Ryan Hannigan and Brian Holiday. And I'd be surprised if it wasn't that way because Cleveland has the most stolen bases in the American League by a long way. And if you're going to beat the Indians, you got to control the running game. David Price controls the running game very well. In fact, I think he's got 1 stolen base against him in the last 3 seasons. So, so that's a big concern. That's how they're looking to match up. They're looking to control the running game. They're looking to, limit the base runners, obviously, but they know they've got to outslug Cleveland. Cleveland's a very good ball club. They've got a great manager and Terry Francona. And Francona's done a lot with not as much as he thought he'd have this year.
Boy, you forgot about all that, right? There's all that emotion in there, too, now, isn't there?
Yeah, and I know Terry has said recently that it's not about him. He's already been asked about it. I'm sure he's rehearsed his speech to reiterate several times to the expanded media that covers this time of year. But he said it's not about him. It's about the players. And, he's been gone from Boston long enough now that he's not really concerned about it so much. I know the question will come up, but he's more concerned about managing his ball club.
Zach Britton, in these year parts, has been talked about with Cy Young. You've dropped 2 Porcello references, and hey, I'm not arguing with you. What do you make of that? I mean, one of the great relief years in the history of the game, really.
Yeah, and I've talked to Dennis Eckersley about this because he won the Cy Young 1 year as a closer, and he said it was because there weren't a lot of good starting candidates that year. And you look back, and that was probably the case. And with Zach Britton, just a tremendous year. And not to take anything away from his year, but, when he pitches 1 inning a game. You look at the number of 1, 2, 3 innings that Rick Porcello had and put them up against the number of innings that Zach Britton had, it's not even close. It's multiplied by who knows how many. So I think when you're talking about a starter who has 22 wins, who was in the hunt until his last start for the ERA crown, for a division winner, I think that's the way you have to go as opposed to a guy who was, locked down for 1 inning a game.
I don't know if America could handle the Red Sox-Cubs World Series, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know either. I mean, it's amazing. I've been to Wrigley Field many, many, many times, and I've seen it when the Cubs have been bad. And last year they started to get good again, and now they're incorrigible. So
isn't it unbelievable? Like, I love Joe Madden. I like Theo. I don't hate their. It's the fans. I mean, I was out there for Pearl Jam 6 weeks ago, and you would have thought they already had 3 parades for this team. They better go out and win 11 games. I'll tell you that right now. They better win Game 1.
Well, here's the thing. The expectations are there. I even saw a guy I don't know where I saw it, but I saw where a guy already got a tattoo saying 2016 World Champion. So I'm like, you know what? You might have jinxed it right there, buddy.
Oh.
Because this is a good ball club. But you know what? They played in a weak division. The National League Central this year was down. and they're the only representative of the Central in the playoffs after there have been several years where they've been 2 and as many as 3 teams from that division. The Pirates were way down. The Cardinals were not nearly as good as they normally are. The Brewers are still rebuilding, and the Reds are in shambles. So they tore through their division, and that's what people have to remember is that they had that situation. Now you look at the American League East, and they had 3 teams with Toronto, Baltimore, and Boston in the postseason, and a dogfight right down until the last week or so. So I just think that the American League East was the better division this year, and therefore teams coming out of the AL East might be better battle tested.
All right, well, enjoy your trip to Cleveland. I always enjoy mine, and we'll be watching from afar here as you guys duke it out with the Indians here for the rights to go to the ALCS. Always great having you on, Tim. Appreciate the time.
All right, thanks, Nestor. Appreciate it.
You got it. Tim Neverett, the play-by-play voice of the Boston Red Sox, joining us here, and you can follow his journey out on Twitter at Tim Neverett. That's Neverett. You can find anything you miss here at WNST in our Buy a Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. Just download the TuneIn Radio app. We do come in crystal clear. Big thanks to our friends at buyatoyota.com. Morning Newspaper reaches your email inbox at 7 a.m. every morning. It's digital, it's free, and it's all powered up by Planet Fitness. You get your headlines, box scores, standings, news stories, blogs, audio, video, all of it there for you. And if there's any breaking news, you want to be on the WNST text service. That's brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. And Dennis will be here to drive you home on Thursday from 3 until 5 with the SSV on WNST. Baseball, Ravens, Redskins, Terps, State College, all sorts of things happening around here all week long. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our WNSTV YouTube channel as well as on Facebook Live. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.